So, as you can see, the thumbnail is trying to figure out why I chose to go thumb button over index, which this is actually really cool. This actually gets to do both in regards to handheld styles, where it does both hinge and thumb button, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But I'll first cover the pros and cons, as a lot of people already do. But first pro of this is it's always on your wrist, and as a hunter, who doesn't want your tool always on your wrist? This, with it being the original, the newer ones, they actually added a little lanyard part where you can attach a lanyard. But even then, they're pretty cumbersome and annoying when it's just hanging. I found some tips and tricks in regards to keeping them from hanging while you're hunting and walking around. I'll share that in a little bit. But issue I had with shooting the index style are the inconsistencies that I had. One was I could not get my finger into the trigger comfortably without feeling like I had to move the string to do so. That I have learned is more of an issue in whatever I was doing, because I know a lot of people that don't deal with that issue in regards to creeping onto the string, or not creeping onto the string, but trying to creep into the actual trigger. I didn't have any issues mentally in regards to how the jaws worked. It does have a lot of travel before it opens, but that really didn't bother me, especially how early I was in shooting. But when I upgraded from the DXT to my baby, the VXR 2 years ago, when I tried this out, when I was originally shooting, the guy actually owned one of these. I fell in love with it immediately. My anchor just was super solid. I felt like I can really control pulling into the back wall, whereas this, if I was pulling really hard, it tended to try to creep up on my wrist, which again, level of inconsistency. It being in my hand, I place it in the same spot every single time, super consistent. Then the other benefit of it was the fact that it came and it operates as both a hinge and it operates as a thumb button. So to take a brief pit stop in regards to the pros and cons, I'll hit on that and explain what the differences are between the two. Because I know when I first started shooting, I had no idea, and I still am learning the ideas of how to operate both, because you can shoot both the same way with back tension, which really isn't back tension. But that's neither here nor there. The real thing that I want to hit on is the fact that hinge, when you set up in a hinge, actually releases this head. And if you can see with this head, you see that this black piece is its own separate head that operates on a hinge style. And with the hinge, or not hinge, but the head, and it swivels. So when it gets there, it operates on this sear that's inside, and I'll probably focus on getting some actual real footage of what this looks like so you can see it. It's gonna be impossible to really focus on it right now. But it hits on a sear that when you rotate your hand, that's when that sear clicks, and then it releases. With that, you get to really practice on your follow through and your actual staying in the back wall. You can stay here all crunched up and really just work the rotation, but the benefit to me of being able to have both styles of the hinge and the thumb button is the fact that I get to practice that hinge style that really focuses and almost forces you to stay in your back wall a little bit stronger and work through your shot process. Versus with this, you can, what people would like to say, way easier to punch this. And I say that, I'm not sure it actually is. It's just a mental choice to shoot the bow the way you're gonna shoot it and overcome it. You can say something might be easier over the other, but in reality, the ball's in your court. The other thing is how I have it set up, which is most of the time, the 90%, which is the thumb button. I have it set pretty hot. And with that, all you do is click it. You put it inside the string, and when you slide back, I get to get 2 anchors, stay nice and long, and then trigger. So, interview. The reason why I chose the Goat Truball over the index style was definitely not the price, because this was a costly expense, but I enjoyed it so much the few times I was able to shoot it before I actually bought it, which I would always encourage. Find a local shop, figure out how to shoot it before you invest the money that ends up being invested into this. Because this is not one that I was able to find for a great deal. How I viewed it was I look at other hinges that are $200 and then other thumb buttons that are $250. I mean, you look at the Ultra View, goodness gracious, those things are pricey. But the fact that I get, one, the consistency of grip, which is what Ultra V kind of prides itself on, is, oh, it's one system, everything's built in the same system, but you have a thumb button versus the Hinge. This right here, it being able to do both all in one, means that my grip is gonna feel the same every single time, no matter what I'm shooting it as, whether it be Hinge or thumb button, no matter what, just depending on the purpose and what I'm trying to train for the moment. And the other thing is, it just looks freaking awesome. I mean, I'm all about some swag points here and there, and if I can win some swag points with my gear, then I'm all about it. But obviously it's way more important in regards to how it fires and the crispness of the trigger compared to what I was saying, and the travel in this is crazy. That versus that is night and day. And with me being more of a command style, I tried this surprise release. I like to load up, and I like to stay heavy in the back wall, and I just can't do the whole squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Let me take that back, I can. But I find a lot more consistency, especially at long yardage when I'm shooting. When I'm actually controlling my shot, I find way, way, way more consistency. So that's why I ended up choosing the GOAT. And I mean, if the goal is to be the GOAT, why wouldn't you shoot the GOAT? So, last thing about the GOAT release, and one of the big headaches that I found trying to hunt with it, because I do hunt with it. I believe whatever I'm going to shoot is what I'm going to shoot throughout the whole year, which is this handheld. But the issue with handhelds is it's hard to keep it attached to you while hunting, and the risk of losing it is very, very high. Especially as a saddle hunter, there's a lot of times I need my hands very, very free when I'm putting up my sticks. So what I found is being able to run it through the peg with just some normal string. I started off with my paracord wrist strap that was actually pretty thick, but it did not do this next trick. And the next trick is being able to slide it into the back of that handheld release. And I'll try to do this like quickly and smoothly. And then being able to get it completely secured down so that I don't have to worry about it while climbing a tree, putting on the sticks, and actually getting everything cinched down. When you talk about silence and you talk about security of not losing it, this is easily the best way to be able to climb with a handheld, in my personal opinion. So that's why I chose the GOAT.